Jessica stood in the middle of the bustling café, her laughter ringing out like a bell. She had just spotted the most ridiculous pair of shoes sitting carefree by the entrance. Bright orange with huge faux fur pom-poms on top, they looked more like a bad joke than a serious fashion statement. She chuckled, glancing around to see if anyone else had noticed. Unbeknownst to Jessica, the owner of those shoes was sitting at the back of the cafe, nursing a cup of coffee while scrolling through his phone. Aaron was just a regular guy trying to enjoy his Sunday morning in peace. He was a little self-conscious about his choice of footwear but didn't think much of it. After all, he'd always liked to stand out in a crowd. But when he caught Jessica's eye and saw her laughing, his heart dropped. He didn't understand why she was laughing at him. No one had ever openly mocked him like that. Sure, he'd made funny choices before, but this felt different. It felt personal. It felt hurtful. Jessica must have sensed a shift. The sound of her laughter faded into a soft giggle and her eyes landed on Aaron. Instant regret washed over her. The piercing look on his face told her everything she needed to know. Her joy transformed into a heavy weight in her chest. She watched as he looked down at his shoes, then back up, forcing a weak smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Jessica wondered. She was usually the life of the party, always making jokes and keeping the mood light. But this time she had crossed a line. She could see the pain in Aaron's expression. It was clear he didn't find her humor funny. Before she could process her growing unease, she pulled out her phone and snapped a quick shot of Aaron's shoes, planning to post it with a funny caption that might redeem her earlier comment, but instead something stopped her. A sudden wave of guilt washed over her. This man wasn't just a source of amusement, he was a person with feelings. In that moment of hesitation, Jessica felt her phone vibrate. A message popped up from a mutual friend. "Did you see Aaron's shoes?" It took everything in her to not reply with her usual sarcasm. "Yeah, I thought so too," she practiced the response in her head, but before she tapped send, she pictured the hurt on his face, so she did the unexpected. Her friend replied quickly, "Wow, yeah, he's a nice guy, just be careful next time." Jessica knew her friend was right. She could feel the weight of her words, but what could she do now? She couldn't approach Aaron directly, she was too embarrassed. Instead, she simply sat back down with her coffee, hoping the moment would blow over. But just then, the cafe's door swung open. An older gentleman walked in wearing a bright orange jacket. He looked familiar, but Jessica couldn't quite place him. He moved toward Aaron, sitting at the corner table. As they chatted, Jessica's curiosity grew. Moments later, the man's expression shifted from casual to serious. He leaned closer to Aaron and pointed in her direction. Jessica's stomach twisted. What was this older man saying? Was he defending his shoes? Laughter that had left her a moment ago came flooding back, mingled with anxiety. Finally, the older man gestured toward Jessica and waved. "You see, not everyone gets it," he said, his voice soft but firm. Jessica caught just a whiff of a smile on Aaron's face, as if he had been trying to dismiss the embarrassment. But the laughter was gone. In its place was a strange silence. The older man walked over to Jessica with purpose. "Hey there," he said, his tone casual yet commanding. "I'm Aaron's uncle." Jessica's heart raced. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, suddenly feeling small. "I didn't mean to hurt his feelings, it just—" Aaron's uncle narrowed his eyes slightly, assessing her sincerity. "It's easy to laugh at things we don't understand." Jessica nodded, her cheeks flushing. "I get that now, I really do." She took a breath. Just as she finished speaking, the older man gestured for her to follow. Together they walked over to Aaron's table. Jessica felt the weight of the moment settle over her like a blanket. She hesitated, looking at Aaron. He was still staring out the window, the shame evident on his face. "Hey Aaron," she began softly. "I'm so sorry for laughing at your shoes. I didn't mean to hurt you. Aaron looked up, his eyes meeting hers. For a fleeting second, Jessica saw a mixture of anger and embarrassment, but then something in his gaze softened. "It's okay," he mumbled, then looked back at his coffee. "No, it's not okay," Jessica pressed. "You deserve better than that. Those shoes are yours and you should wear them with pride." Aaron shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "They were a gift," he replied, barely above a whisper. "From my sister." In that moment, Jessica felt the world tilt a little. She realized that beneath the laughter, beneath the orange shoes, was a story about family, about love, and yes, about vulnerability. She suddenly felt a connection with him, one born out of mutual understanding and respect. "Your sister has great taste," Jessica said, mustering up a smile. "I mean, who else would have the guts to put pom-poms on shoes?" Aaron's eyes glimmered for a second, that tension easing just a bit. "Absolutely, wearing something different shows you have character." The two shared a moment of silence, the cafe sounds fading into the background. Jessica could see the corner of Aaron's mouth twitch, almost like he was trying to suppress a smile. "Honestly, I think I'd have to see my sister's reaction to see if I really pull it off," he said, finally relaxing a little. Jessica suggested, feeling bold, "I could be your hype woman." Aaron chuckled softly, and that lightened the tension much more. Why not? With that, something shifted in the air. The heavy weight of ridicule began to lift, and just like that, they found themselves embarking on a new chapter, one grounded in understanding and respect. The mood in the cafe turned lighter as Jessica and Aaron started chatting. They talked about everything: music, movies, their embarrassing school stories, all while Aaron still wore his bright orange shoes with the pom-poms that once seemed so silly. Jessica didn't just discover a new friend that day, she learned a lesson about empathy and understanding. She realized that sometimes laughter isn't just an expression of joy, it's a tool that can cut deep if not handled carefully. As she left the cafe, she waved goodbye to Aaron, promising to meet up again. The shoes, once merely a source of mockery, had transformed into symbols of courage, self-expression, and a new friendship. From that day on, Jessica made a promise to herself. She would choose laughter wisely, letting it uplift rather than deter. And every time she saw bright orange shoes like Aaron's, a little smile would bounce onto her face, a reminder of the day she learned what truly matters. Jessica was in the corner of the cafe, her laughter suddenly freezing the air around her. The source, a pair of bright orange shoes decorated with fluffy pom-poms. They were an eyesore that seemed to scream for attention. She couldn't help herself. The moment she spotted them, she burst out laughing. She exclaimed, glancing around at her friends who shared in her amusement. But what she didn't notice was Aaron, the owner of those infamous shoes, sitting 2 tables away. The laughter reached him like a shard of ice cutting through his otherwise pleasant morning. He glanced down at his shoes and felt warmth rush to his cheeks. Great, he thought, just great. Aaron was a practical guy. He liked to blend in, but on this day he decided to wear those outrageous shoes, a gift from his sister who had insisted he step out of his comfort zone. As he fiddled with the edge of his coffee cup, he tried to shake off the embarrassment. Just shoes, he muttered under his breath, yet his heart sank deeper. He caught Jessica's eye and saw her bright laughter turn into a look of surprise as she realized who the shoes belonged to. Jessica noticed the shift in the room. Laughter faded as she locked eyes with Aaron, who looked painfully aware of her mockery. Her stomach twisted with regret. She hadn't meant to hurt anyone. Sure, she loved to joke around, but this felt different. This felt personal. After all, how often did laughter echo through a cafe, only to land on someone like a weight? Jessica's throat tightened as she watched Aaron turn back to his coffee, his smile replaced by something darker. It was the type of moment that turned a sunny day into a stormy one. Just then, the door swung open. An older gentleman strode in, wearing a matching bright orange jacket. With a look of recognition, he walked straight over to Aaron and placed a hand on his shoulder. Jessica squirmed in her seat, realizing they must be related. The older man asked, glancing toward Jessica, who suddenly felt like a spotlight was shining on her. She lowered her gaze, wishing she could disappear. Nothing, Aaron replied, trying to mask his discomfort with a casual shrug, but the hurt in his eyes was clear. It was as if the room had darkened. A silence hung in the air, thick with unresolved tension. "Come on, you can tell me," his uncle responded, knuckles white on the back of the chair as he leaned toward Aaron. Remarkably, Jessica saw Aaron shift his eyes to the window, trying to avoid the conversation altogether. "It's just some girl laughing at my shoes." The older man looked from Aaron to Jessica, and Jessica felt her heart race. What did he see when he looked at her? A careless egotist, a bully. She wanted so badly to mend this, but didn't know how to escape the clicking clock of embarrassment ticking away in the air. Just when Jessica thought it was over, the older man approached her table with purpose. "Excuse me," he said firmly but not unkindly. "I'm Aaron's uncle." Panic gripped her. How could she explain her joke gone wrong? "I didn't mean to offend him. I'm really sorry," she stammered, her hands shaking slightly. "Words carry weight," the uncle said, still studying her with an analytical gaze. There was a quiet wisdom in his voice that cut straight to the heart of the matter. Jessica took a deep breath, guilt rising in her throat. "You're right, I didn't think." He interjected, his voice softening. Jessica could see compassion in his eyes, and it made her stomach churn even more. I promise I didn't mean any harm," she replied, feeling the weight of her choices pressing down on her. "Can I talk to him?" "Yeah, I think that would be a good idea," he said, stepping aside to allow her space. "He's a good kid, just doesn't take criticism well." With a hesitant heart, Jessica moved towards Aaron's table as the uncle nodded her forward. She could feel the warmth of his presence behind her, as if lending her strength. She said softly, taking a seat across from him. He looked up, and the hurt was still there, just beneath the surface. He asked, his voice holding a sharp edge. "I wanted to say I'm really sorry for laughing. I was thoughtless, and I truly didn't mean to hurt you. Your shoes are unique, but they're part of you." For a moment, they simply stared at each other. She could see the conflict in his eyes. He finally asked, crossing his arms defensively. "Of course I remember," she replied, her voice cracking a little. "But I've realized now that my laughter reflected more about me than it did about you. I don't want to be that person who laughs at someone else's expense." Aaron leaned back in his chair, uncertainty clouding his expression. "People make fun of me all the time," he confessed, the words tumbling from his lips. "But with shoes like these, I thought I'd finally embrace being different." "That's brave," Jessica said, feeling a sense of admiration bubble within her. Aaron's eyes softened just a little. "I do," she replied earnestly, feeling the moment shift. "Those shoes are a part of who you are, a conversation starter, a way to express your individualism. You have every right to wear them proudly." Silence hung around them, thick like fog. Aaron studied Jessica, seeing the sincerity etched on her face. The laughter from earlier seemed like a lifetime ago. "Thanks," he said quietly, the tight lines around his lips easing just a bit. Would you be up for trying something? How about taking a walk out in those shoes? Jessica offered, feeling a hint of freedom slip into the space between them. Aaron asked, a flicker of hope brightening his expression. Absolutely, and if anyone laughs, I'll have your back, she said with a wink, trying to lighten the atmosphere. Against all odds, Aaron broke into a small smile. I think I could be okay with that, he said, the words unwrapping like a gift, revealing the first hints of warmth that had been hidden beneath his earlier shell. With newfound excitement, they stood together, Jessica taking the lead. As they walked out of the cafe, she couldn't help but glance back at the laughter that had already morphed into something beautiful. The other patrons watched with curiosity as Aaron stepped confidently forward, his bright orange shoes grabbing attention, but this time not in a negative light. He was no longer the target of mockery, he was a beacon of self-acceptance. The sun broke through the clouds as they strolled along the street. The city buzzed around them, cars honking, people rushing, and yet in this moment they felt like the only two people in the world. There was something powerful in standing up and confronting both the laughter and fear inside them. See, Jessica said, nudging him playfully. Aaron laughed, a genuine laugh that rang like music in the air. Yeah, it feels good. As they continued walking, their conversation flowed like a river. They discussed everything from favorite music to embarrassing childhood stories, and with each word the barriers that once divided them crumbled a little more. You know, wearing these shoes has taught me a lot, Aaron said, a thoughtful expression washing over his face. Jessica nodded. You know, I've learned something too. It's easy to mock what we don't understand. That afternoon, they walked for hours, exchanging stories, building trust, and creating a friendship that felt like a sun on a winter day. Every laugh echoed through the streets, casting shadows away. As they reached the park, Aaron paused to take in his surroundings. It was a place of acceptance where laughter felt safe. His orange shoes no longer felt like a joke. They became a badge of honor and emblem of the journey he had taken that day. Thanks for today, Aaron said, sincerity in his voice. You've changed how I see things. I just reflected what was already there, Jessica replied, grateful for the connection they had built. As the sun began to set, their laughter mingled with the petals falling from the trees. The shoes still sparkled in the fading light, bright orange standing out against the earthy tones of the park. What started as a moment of mockery had transformed into a shared journey of understanding. That day, Jessica discovered the power of words, and Aaron rediscovered his courage. Both learned an important lesson. Everyone has a story, and we should choose our words in a way that writes that story with compassion, kindness, and empathy. And maybe, just maybe, that was the most impactful lesson they would carry for years to come. Jessica burst into laughter, the sound bright and clear, drawing the attention of those around her. It all started in that small coffee shop on a rainy afternoon. She had just spotted Aaron sitting alone at a table, his bright orange shoes topped with fluffy pom-poms peeking out under the edge of the table. To her, they looked like a wild fashion choice, a bold statement that only invited ridicule. She exclaimed, her voice cutting through the soft murmurs of conversation. But as the moment unfolded, laughter drifted through the air and landed on Aaron like a heavy blanket. He looked up, eyes wide, and in that instant the joy on his face evaporated. Aaron had chosen these shoes to make a statement, inspired by his sister who had always encouraged him to express himself. But her laughter hit him hard. It was as if the world had suddenly narrowed down and he could feel every gaze on him, every judgment passing silently through the room. He glanced down at his shoes, the ridiculousness of them now amplified in his mind. His heart raced, knotting painfully in his chest. Each cell in his body screamed discomfort, but there was nowhere to hide. The cafe felt suffocating. Jessica's laughter started to falter when she caught a glimpse of Aaron's expression. The joy that had ignited her chuckles suddenly morphed into something else, regret. She hadn't meant to hurt anyone, but as she watched Aaron's face turn from playful confidence to a shadow of despair, she realized her words carried more weight than she ever intended. Across the room, the awkwardness thickened, and she could feel every eye assessing the situation, giving silent judgment. In the serene backdrop of the cafe, it felt like a moment stretched into slow motion, an invisible thread tugging at her heart. Jessica suddenly felt small, as if her laughter was echoing back at her with a haunting clarity. Just then, Aaron's phone buzzed, breaking Jessica's trance. His face shifted from embarrassment to mild curiosity as he opened a new message. There it was, a message from a friend, someone who knew about the cringeworthy spectacle happening across the room. The warm glow of the screen illuminated his face and seemed to amplify the churning anxiety inside him. He gripped his phone like a lifeline, but this also made the laughter they shared feel more loaded. Conversations flowed around him, but he felt more isolated than ever, as if he were encased in glass while the world outside moved on without him. Meanwhile, Jessica's heart raced with a sudden surge of shame. Was this who she wanted to be? Someone who laughed at others? She quickly turned her gaze to her friends, trying to deflect the awkwardness building up inside her. I shouldn't have said that, she whispered to herself, guilt forming a heavy knot in her stomach. The cafe door swung open and a burst of wind swept inside, bringing with it the damp chill of the day. An older man entered, wearing a bright orange jacket that matched Aaron's shoes. He beamed with a warmth that contrasted sharply with the icy silence hanging around Aaron. The man approached Aaron's table, oblivious to the tension in the air, and placed a reassuring hand on his nephew's shoulder. "Hey buddy, I'm just catching a quick coffee." His voice was upbeat, shining through the murky atmosphere. Jessica felt a flicker of hope as she observed the two. Perhaps this would provide Aaron a reprieve from the hurt. But when the older man turned to address her, the glint in his eye shifted and an unspoken understanding passed between them. "I saw the shoes." Jessica swallowed hard, feeling the heat of embarrassment peak as her mind raced. "It's not what I meant to do," she stammered, unsure how to navigate the inquiry laid before her. Aaron didn't add much, merely shrugging and trying to mask the storm brewing behind his calm facade. "That seems to be the problem, young lady," the older man said, leveling his gaze at Jessica with a mix of firmness and warmth. "You think it's all in the name of fun, but let me tell you, words are powerful." Jessica stared deep into those wise eyes, and for the first time she truly understood the weight of her laughter. "I didn't think," she admitted, her voice suddenly small. "I just wanted to share a laugh. There's a fine line between humor and cruelty," the man replied, his voice steady but sympathetic. With a nod, he turned back to Aaron, who had ducked his head at the uncomfortable moment. He asked, gently tugging on Aaron's shoulder. Jessica watched them leave, a newfound heaviness settling in her heart. Thoughts spiraled in her mind. What if she had been the catalyst for Aaron's pain? What if her laughter permanently wounded him? In a moment of impulse, Jessica pulled out her phone. Her fingers shook as she navigated to her friend's number and tapped out a message. "I just made a huge mistake. I laughed at someone's shoes and now I feel terrible." She pressed send, then immediately regretted it. What were her friends going to say? Just as she felt herself erupt with anxiety, her phone pinged once again, breaking through the guilt that threatened to overwhelm her. "Make it right," came the simple reply from her friend. Those two words felt like a challenge, pushing her toward redemption. She thought about Aaron's face in that moment, the embarrassment that paled his once vibrant features. As the hours passed and the cafe filled with the scent of freshly brewed coffee, Jessica felt a sense of urgency build within her. "I have to find him. He deserves an apology," she decided. She shot up from her chair and stepped into the crisp afternoon air, determined to make things right. Heart pounding in her chest, she reached for Aaron's phone number in her contacts, but she couldn't find it. How could she talk to him? She thought of looking him up on social media, but that felt invasive. Instead, she walked through the neighborhood, scanning every corner, hoping to spot him. She replayed her own laughter over and over in her head, regretting each chuckle, every teasing comment. Just as she was about to give up, she noticed a figure in the distance. There he was, sitting on a bench with his uncle beside him, still wearing the same outrageously bright shoes. Jessica's heart leaped, courage bubbling to the surface. She called out, rushing toward them, her breath heavy with exertion and nerves. Aaron looked up, surprised. He hesitated but nodded. "Okay," he said, his voice flat. Jessica faced him, taking a deep breath to steady herself. "I really need to apologize for today. I was so careless with my words." Aaron replied, hurt evident in his tone. "No, I was wrong," she said earnestly. "I get it now. It was thoughtless. You're a person, and those shoes are a part of who you are." Aaron's gaze shifted to his shoes, the colorful pom-poms bouncing gently in the breeze. "Everyone just makes fun of me." "She's right," Jessica replied, searching for the right words. "Those shoes show courage." His uncle leaned forward, intrigued by the conversation. Words have a way of building or breaking someone. Tears welled up in Aaron's eyes, and he quickly wiped them away. It hurts." Jessica reached out, her voice gentle yet firm. "You should never have to apologize for being yourself, and I shouldn't have mocked you for it. I know I can't take back what I said, but I'd like to help you own this." Staring at her in confusion, Aaron weighed her words. It was a moment filled with vulnerability for both of them, raw and beautiful against the backdrop of the bustling city. Finally, a small smile crept onto his face, almost shy yet filled with possibility. "Absolutely," Jessica affirmed, her heart racing. "How about we start right now? Let's walk with confidence." As the three of them began a walk together, Aaron felt a wave of relief wash over him. The judgment that had previously made him feel so small began to lift. With Jessica beside him, he understood he wasn't just on display. He was a canvas for his own unique expression. The vibrant city became their stage. People noticed the laughter and conversations swirling around them, eyes drawn to the striking orange shoes, but this time the laughter was light-filled with acceptance rather than mockery. As they strolled through parks and past shops, Jessica and Aaron's rapport bloomed. "You know, I never thought I'd make a friend from an awkward moment," Aaron said, stealing a glance at Jessica. "Life has a way of surprising us," she replied. For every step they took, the echoes of laughter transformed into something deeper, an understanding of kindness, strength, and resilience. The moment Jessica had almost regretted became the catalyst for transformation, not just for Aaron's confidence, but for Jessica's character too. In the end, it wasn't just about the shoes. It was about finding connection in unexpected places and learning that laughter could be a bridge or a wall, depending on how we choose to use it. And that day, they both learned the importance of kindness, understanding, and the power of stepping out of comfort zones. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow across the city, they knew that they had forged a bond that would last through laughter and love, a story they would carry with them always, reminding them that sometimes the most beautiful friendships stem from the most awkward moments. Jessica couldn't hold back her laughter as she strolled into the bustling cafe, the aroma of coffee wafting through the air. Her eyes zeroed in on him, Aaron. He was sitting alone, his bright orange shoes adorned with ridiculous pom-poms, each one bouncing playfully as he shifted in his seat. Jessica blurted out, laughter bubbling uncontrollably from her lips. Around her, friends turned with raised eyebrows, chuckling as they noticed the source of her amusement. But for Aaron, it felt like a dagger had just pierced through him. The bright colors of his shoes, once a bold statement of individuality and a gift from his artistic sister, suddenly felt like a mark of shame. It was as if all eyes in the cafe funneled toward him, amplifying his self-consciousness. He glanced down at his shoes, heart sinking. Maybe I shouldn't have worn these today, he thought, the laughter around him morphing into a suffocating weight. He had dressed with intention, hoping to embrace a little flair while sipping his morning coffee. Instead, he felt pulled back into a box he desperately wanted to escape. Jessica's giggles dwindled as she caught sight of the pained expression on Aaron's face. Something shifted within her, a twinge of regret, a flicker of awareness. She thought, this wasn't some silly joke, this was a person she had just laughed at. Her laughter echoed back, transforming from a joyful sound into an unsettling reminder of her thoughtlessness. Desperate to turn the tide, she turned her attention back to her friends, but her mind was lost in a whirlwind of guilt. Between sips of her coffee, she couldn't help but glance back at Aaron. He sat there, shoulders slumped, trying to blend into the scenery. The laughter around him felt like a heavy blanket, stifling his confidence, and somehow she had wrapped that blanket around him. As the cafe filled with chatter, the door swung open, allowing a gust of wind to sweep in. In walked an older gentleman in an equally bright orange jacket, his steps confident and cheerful. He approached Aaron's table with a familiar warmth. "Hey, buddy," he exclaimed, a dazzling smile lighting up his face. Aaron didn't respond immediately. The light in his uncle's eyes felt distant as he continued to stare at his shoes. Jessica watched the interaction unfold, her stomach twisting into knots. The warmth between them contrasted sharply with the cold she had created. Maybe I should go and apologize, she thought, feeling a surge of urgency. But before she could collect her thoughts and muster the courage, the old man gently nudged Aaron's shoulder and observed Jessica from afar, his gaze lingering. "I'll grab us some coffee," he beamed before heading to the counter. The moment hung heavy as Aaron's uncle left him alone with his thoughts. Then the weight of the laughter returned, pushing down on Aaron's heart like a stone. "I should have known better," he muttered softly to himself. Each whispered thought carved deeper into his spirit, intensifying the feeling of isolation that began to seep into his bones. Jessica's heart raced. She felt compelled to walk over, but the enormity of the moment halted her. She sighed inwardly, grappling with the reality of her actions. She had always prided herself on being funny, on making light of things. But this time, humor came at an immense cost. As if sensing her turmoil, her phone buzzed in her pocket, a message from a friend. "Did you see the guy with those shoes?" It felt like another punch to the gut. How could she laugh at something that now felt so unjust? Voice trembling, she replied, "I messed up." The response came quickly. The suggestion flickered in her mind as she caught another glance at Aaron. He sat with his head down, tracing circles in the condensation on his table. She could see the corners of his mouth turned downward, and in that moment her heart clenched. Whatever she did next, it had to be right. As if summoned by her conscience, Jessica rose from her seat. She could feel her pulse quicken as she made her way toward Aaron. She wondered. A swirl of emotions was building a storm inside her, each step feeling like a monumental task. "Hey," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. Aaron looked up, his expression a mixture of surprise and uncertainty. The sunlight filtering through the cafe windows caught the shine of his shoes, but the light glancing off them felt dull compared to the laughter they had sparked. They sat across from each other, two strangers caught in an awkward, vulnerable moment. "I'm really sorry for laughing at your shoes," she continued, more confident this time. "I didn't think about how it might make you feel." Aaron blinked, the tension hanging between them drawing an invisible line. He replied, his voice tinged with skepticism. Jessica could see the hurt in his eyes. "I know it sounds bad, and it was," she said, urgency creeping into her voice. "I thought it was silly, but it was wrong of me to laugh. Your shoes are, well, unique." For a moment, Aaron remained silent, absorbing her words like a sponge. It felt odd hearing validation now. "You just kind of laughed at me," he replied softly, almost retreating into his shell again. "Most people just make fun of me." "I get that now," Jessica said, her heart aching for him. "You deserve to express yourself without fear, and I want to make things right. I don't want to be the person who adds to your discomfort. How about we make a deal? Let's go out together, walk around, and own those shoes." Aaron hesitated, glancing toward the door, his uncertainty etched into his face. "You would want to do that, even after." His voice was a blend of disbelief and hope, like a flicker of light peeking through the clouds after a storm. She replied with genuine enthusiasm, "If people laugh, at least they'll know who they're laughing at, plus I'll stand by you." An unexpected smile crept onto Aaron's face, hesitant but real, like the sun peeking through a heavy thunderhead. "Okay," he agreed, the words leaving his mouth like a breath of fresh air. Jessica felt relief wash over her as they rose together. With each step toward the cafe exit, the burden that had clenched her heart seemed to lift. The world outside the cafe buzzed alive as they stepped out, full of colors and laughter that blended into the vibrant scenery of the day. As they walked side by side, something shifted in Aaron. The weight of embarrassment lifted, replaced by a newfound resolve. Jessica could see his posture straighten, his eyes glimmering with confidence. With each passing moment, the bright orange shoes began to carry more than just pom-poms. They transformed into a beacon of self-esteem, an emblem of defiance against judgment. "Look at you," Jessica joked as they passed a group of people. Aaron chuckled, a hint of pride creeping back into his demeanor. A couple of passers-by threw curious glances their way, and this time he felt empowered, not frightened. He replied, matching her humor. Strolled through the park, laughter threading through their conversation as they shared stories about themselves, about dreams, silly childhood moments, and lessons learned. Every laugh shattered the remnants of embarrassment he had carried, every story woven tightly into the fabric of their growing friendship. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue around them, the atmosphere turned electric. Children played nearby, their laughter mingling with the sound of distant music. Jessica turned to Aaron. "See. This is what it's all about." Aaron looked into her eyes, feeling the warmth of camaraderie blooming. "Thank you for standing by me," he said sincerely. "It's easy to judge from a distance," Jessica replied, "but now I truly see you." As they continued walking, he started to relish every colorful glance, every chuckle meant for him. This time, it felt more like admiration instead of mockery. They passed by one cafe where patrons turned their heads, but instead of shrinks or sneers, he caught a few nods of approval and even a couple of smiles. "Okay, maybe I can do this after all," he said, glancing at Jessica with newfound confidence. Hours melted away, and as they reached their final stop at a scenic overlook, the world sprawled beneath them, a breathtaking tapestry bathed in twilight. Aaron took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of freedom mixed with hope. "I don't think I'd have done any of this without you," he admitted, a mixture of gratitude and realization washing over him. "That's what friends are for," Jessica replied, her own heart swelling with joy. "We learn, we grow, and we lift each other up." As the sun set, their laughter echoed across the landscape, transforming a shaky moment of ridicule into a beautiful testament to friendship and self-discovery. Aaron's orange shoes, once symbols of shame, now gleamed in his eyes as he stepped toward a horizon filled with possibility. Here in that moment they understood, we each carry our quirks and differences, and what truly matters is how we choose to uplift each other in the face of judgment and uncertainty. Sometimes it only takes laughter and love to illuminate a path that seemed at first lost to the shadows. Jessica couldn't contain herself as she spotted him across the cafe, a lone figure with bright orange shoes sporting an abundance of fluffy pom-poms. She blurted out, laughter escaping her lips like a burst of confetti. Her friends chuckled along, tilting their heads to catch a glimpse of the spectacle. But in that moment, the laughter didn't reach Aaron's ears as a joyful sound. It slammed against him like a heavy weight. He sat at a table, an iced coffee forgotten in front of him, his heart sinking. Not again, he thought, feeling the familiar rush of humiliation creep over him. Aaron had chosen those shoes with intent. They were a gift from his sister, a reminder to embrace individuality, to step outside the norm. He had wanted to feel bold, to stand out. Instead, he felt like he was shrinking under the magnitude of Jessica's laughter. The giggles echoed through the cafe, weaving their way into conversations, but they felt invisible to Aaron. It was as if he had become the target, the punchline of a joke he never wanted to be part of. Shifting his gaze, he sought refuge in his phone screen, but the laughter still crackled in the air like static electricity. Jessica's amusement waned as she caught the flicker of shame in Aaron's eyes. The laughter felt less like innocent fun and more like a knife slicing through the fabric of his confidence. She thought, the weight of realization pressing down on her chest. It wasn't just a light-hearted joke. She had laughed at a person, and in that moment she felt the utter wrongness of it wash over her. The high-pitched laughter that had started so freely now hung in the air, heavy and regretful. The cafe door swung open, allowing a gust of wind to rush in, accompanied by a cheerful voice. A man wearing a bright orange jacket, the same shade as Aaron's shoe, strolled over, beaming with warmth. "Hey Aaron," he said, ruffling Aaron's hair playfully. Aaron managed a weak smile, but the moment felt overshadowed by the earlier laughter. "I'm good," he replied quietly, his voice barely a whisper. He couldn't shake off the sting of Jessica's comment, which felt like a festering wound now. His uncle said, noticing the shift in Aaron's demeanor, "Honestly, those shoes are a statement." They exchanged a few more light-hearted words, but the conversation felt distant to Aaron. His uncle's enthusiasm was like a warm blanket around a fading fire, holding on to light that was rapidly diminishing. Across the cafe, Jessica watched the scene unfold. Her heart sank. She wanted to reach out and apologize, but the words felt stuck in her throat. As she sipped her coffee, she thought about how her laughter had turned something unique into something tainted by her mockery. Desperate to do something to make it right, she pulled out her phone. A message from a mutual friend buzzed in. "Did you see that guy's shoes?" Jessica felt a wave of nausea wash over her. "I can't be part of this anymore," she thought. Her friend replied almost instantly. "You should apologize." Jessica nodded to herself, heart racing. "I have to fix this," she whispered under her breath, determination igniting within her. Suddenly, the cafe felt suffocating and she stood up, feeling the urgency grow inside her. Taking steadying breaths, she walked toward Aaron's table, forcing herself to focus. Every step felt like climbing a mountain, but the thought of leaving things unresolved propelled her forward. As she approached, she saw his uncle patting Aaron on the back, oblivious to the tension in the air. Jessica asked, her voice steady but gentle. Aaron looked up, surprise flickering briefly across his face. Sure," he said, shifting in his seat. His eyes held confusion, almost a hint of dread as he processed her presence. Jessica took a deep breath, trying to steady the racing of her heart. "I wanted to say I'm really sorry for laughing earlier. I didn't mean to hurt you." Aaron stared at her, processing her words slowly. He asked, a note of hurt layered beneath his voice. "No," Jessica replied, her voice low and sincere. "I see now how much I hurt you. I got caught up in trying to be funny, and it was careless." Watching him closely, she could see a flicker of vulnerability beneath his tough exterior. "Those shoes mean something to me," he muttered, eyes glancing down at the brightly colored fabric. "They were a gift from my sister." "Exactly," Jessica said, recognizing the bravery it took to wear something so bold. "It takes guts to be yourself, especially when people are quick to judge. I was wrong to laugh at that." Silence hung between them, thick and suffocating. Aaron shifted again in his seat, uncertainty dancing across his features. "I do," Jessica affirmed, "truly, and I'd like to help you show that if you'll let me. Let's own those shoes together." A cautious smile began to form on Aaron's face. "You want to walk with me?" "Yes," she exclaimed, feeling her own excitement begin to build. "If someone laughs, I'll stand by your side." Aaron's expression shifted, uncertainty melting away as confidence began to fill the gaps. He asked, eyes widening in disbelief. "Absolutely," she said, her heart swelling with determination. "We're better when we uplift each other." With a newfound sense of ownership, Aaron nodded. As they stepped out of the cafe, a rush of fresh air enveloped them, a freeing sensation ignited within both of them. The streets of the city were alive with the hum of passers-by, and Jessica couldn't help but feel a surge of pride for Aaron as they walked side by side. "Look around," she said, glancing at the world bustling before them. "This is our moment." As they strolled through the busy streets, Jessica could feel the energy shifting. People turned their heads, some giggling, but this time the laughter felt different. It wasn't aimed at Aaron, it felt more like intrigue. She could see that curiosity in the eyes of those around them. "See," she teased, nudging Aaron playfully as they passed a group of teenagers. Aaron chuckled, a genuine laugh that melted away his earlier fears. "I never thought I'd be doing this," he admitted, glancing down at his shoes, the bright orange now feeling symbolic of courage rather than shame. "People are curious, and that's okay," Jessica encouraged. As laughter filled the spaces around them, the heaviness lifted, and Aaron felt lighter than he had in ages. They traversed through the park, soaking in the moment. With each step, they exchanged stories, jokes, and laughter. It became a celebration of self-acceptance, revealing the kindness and strength woven through their connection. "This is kind of amazing," Aaron said, glancing over at Jessica with a newfound appreciation. "Being different is your superpower," Jessica said with a grin. They walked on, the sun beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over everything. More people noticed the vibrant shoes, smiles formed, and a few even approached them, curious enough to ask about the unique style. "Those are so cool," one passerby called out, a young girl pointing excitedly. Aaron beamed. "They're a gift from my sister." "Awesome." The happiness radiating from Aaron seemed to fuel Jessica's spirit even more. "See, there's power in owning your choices," she said, reveling in the positive shift. "Maybe I can really make a difference," Aaron mused, feeling a sense of pride swell within him. As they turned a corner, they stumbled upon a small outdoor event, a local craft fair filled with joyous laughter, music, and excitement. Jessica's eyes lit up. Aaron hesitated for a moment, but then felt the buoyancy of his newfound confidence pull him forward. Together, they joined the throngs of people, the vibrant colors of the fair blending with the brightness of his shoes. Everywhere he looked, there was an opportunity to connect, to showcase not just his shoes, but the vibrant person he was. Laughter echoed around him as they wandered from booth to booth, admiring crafts, tasting treats, and collecting mementos. Jessica exclaimed, pointing to a booth filled with colorful bracelets. Aaron smiled, and as they received a couple of compliments, the spark began to ignite a flame. Compliments turned into conversations, and he felt the warmth of connection rise up within. He spotted a pair of shoes similar to his only in bright yellow worn by an artist painting on a canvas nearby. "Hey," Aaron called out, a grin spreading across his face. The artist turned, a wide smile illuminating their face. "Thanks." Laughter erupted between them, and moments later, they shared stories of how they embraced their unique styles. In that moment, Aaron finally recognized what it meant to own his individuality. Jessica watched, a sense of pride blooming in her heart. This was the transformation she had hoped for, seeing someone rise from the ashes of insecurity and step boldly into themselves. As the fair began to wind down, Aaron turned to Jessica, his heart full. "Thank you," he said earnestly. "I don't think I could have done this without you." With the sun setting behind them, casting long shadows on the ground, Jessica smiled back with equal warmth. "You were already strong, you just needed a little push." As they made their way back down the street, something shifted. The laughter that once felt heavy now felt light as air. Aaron had turned a moment of ridicule into a journey of self-expression and friendship. The vibrant shoes beneath his feet became his armor in a world that had once cast him aside. They laughed deeply as they made their way home, the bond between them solidified by the trials of their day. In that moment, they realized the powerful beauty of acceptance, of kindness, and the strength that lies within us all when we choose to uplift rather than tear down. And just like that, orange shoes became a symbol not just of fashion, but of courage, identity, and the unbreakable spirit of friendship. In the rhythm of laughter and understanding, they both emerged transformed, two souls walking boldly into their next chapter, side by side. Jessica walked into the crowded cafe, her laughter ringing out like a bell. It was a typical Saturday, busy with friends catching up over steaming mugs of coffee. As she scanned the room, her eyes landed on him, Aaron, sitting alone at a table, his bright orange shoes flaunting pom-poms that bobbed as he shifted nervously. She exclaimed, laughter spilling from her lips without a second thought. Her friends turned to see what had caught her attention, and soon they were all giggling. One of them mimicked, and the laughter swelled. But then Jessica noticed Aaron's face falling, the joy of her laughter turning into something heavy. His gaze shifted to the floor, where the shoes seemed to mock him from beneath the table. Aaron had chosen those shoes intentionally, a vibrant gift from his sister meant to inspire him to embrace his quirks, to be bold. In the face of their mockery, they felt more like shackles than symbols of individuality. Not today, he thought, wishing he could disappear. The cheer that had initially embraced him now felt like a suffocating weight. Jessica's laughter echoed around the cafe, but as she caught sight of the hurt in Aaron's eyes, her stomach twisted. She thought, guilt flooding her system. Aaron quickly glanced at his phone, fingers trembling as he half-heartedly scrolled through social media, trying to drown out the sound of their laughter. Her heart raced. She hadn't meant to hurt him. Real humor didn't come at someone else's expense. For the first time, a line had been crossed, one she was not proud of. Desperate to make it right, she needed to gather her thoughts and reach out to him, but could she? Could she step out of her comfort zone and face the very person she had laughed at? Just then, the cafe door swung open, and an older man strode in wearing an equally bright orange jacket. He spotted Aaron and made his way over, full of energy and warmth. He said, grinning widely. "I'm okay," Aaron mumbled, trying to muster a smile as his uncle pulled out a chair and sat down. But whatever joy he brought with him felt dulled by the earlier mockery. "Just getting some coffee, huh? I love your shoes." The man chuckled, completely oblivious to the tension hanging heavily in the air. "Thanks," Aaron replied, but the word felt like a hollow effort. The shoes, once a source of excitement, now felt like a badge of shame. Watching from a distance, Jessica felt the weight of her laughter settle like a thick fog in the room. She noticed how Aaron was attempting to brush off the ridicule, but how his shoulders still sagged under its weight. Maybe it was too late to make an apology. Maybe she had ruined any chance of getting to know him. Could there be forgiveness after such a moment? As she sat there, her phone vibrated in her pocket. It was a message from a mutual friend who had witnessed the whole scene. "Did you see Aaron's shoes?" The words felt like a slap in the face, a reminder of her own insensitivity. "I just messed up," she replied quickly, a knot forming in her stomach. "While you need to apologize," her friend shot back, the urgency built inside her. She had to do something. She couldn't just sit here. Taking a deep breath, Jessica rose from her chair and approached Aaron's table, the weight of the moment carrying her forward with a mix of fear and determination. "Hey, Aaron," she said, her voice trembling slightly. He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. He asked guardedly, his walls still up. It pained her to see that he had closed himself off because of her laughter. "I wanted to apologize," she began, the words spilling out before she could second-guess herself. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Aaron's expression softened, confusion swirling in his gaze. "You thought it was funny," he replied quietly, clutching the edge of the table. "I know, and that was terrible of me," Jessica continued, desperation creeping into her tone. "I didn't think about how my laughter would affect you." As he looked down at his shoes, she saw uncertainty flicker in his eyes. He asked almost timidly. "Yes, I do," she affirmed, genuinely. "They take courage to wear in a world that often encourages everyone to blend in." The room felt suspended in time, their conversation hanging thick in the air. Aaron looked back at her, still unsure. "It's just, everyone always laughs at me." "You're more than that," Jessica said, reaching out for his hand across the table. "You don't deserve to feel ashamed." In that moment, something changed in Aaron's eyes. Perhaps it was the first flicker of hope. "You really mean that?" "No, I meant what I said. I want to help you own your choice." Aaron blinked, disbelief crossing his face. "You want to do that with me?" Jessica replied, her heart racing. "If someone laughs, we'll both laugh." For a brief moment, Aaron seemed to contemplate her offer, and then, gradually, he nodded. As they stood up, a feeling of exhilaration washed over Jessica. It was as if they had crossed an invisible barrier that stood between them, and she felt her own willingness to embrace vulnerability grow. Stepping out into the bright afternoon sunshine, Jessica felt an unexpected surge of confidence. The streets were busy with people bustling about, and as they walked side by side, she couldn't help but feel that this was a moment they would both remember. "Look around," she encouraged, glancing at him with a bright smile. "This is our chance." As they strolled through the city, a blend of bustling cafes and shops, curiosity followed them like a shadow. People noticed Aaron's shoes, some giggling, but it wasn't mockery this time. There was awe, admiration even. A passerby called out, and Aaron's eyes lit up. "See?" Jessica exclaimed, nudging him playfully. With each passing moment, the laughter that had once pulled him down now began to lift him higher. "Maybe it's not so bad," Aaron said, glancing at Jessica. "I feel a bit more." With the sun shining brightly above them, they made their way to a park, where the sounds of children playing and laughter mixing filled the air. The atmosphere was electric as they walked together, their conversation flowing freely. "I never thought I'd be walking around proudly in these," Aaron admitted, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "They mean you're unafraid to be different," Jessica said, her admiration evident. "Heh, I guess I'm more noticeable now," Aaron teased, looking down at his footwear with newfound pride. Just then, they stumbled upon a small festival happening in the park, colorful booths set up with art and crafts. As they entered, the lively atmosphere wrapped around them like a warm hug. Music filled the air, and all around, people were smiling and chatting, creating an infectious sense of joy. Jessica exclaimed, her enthusiasm contagious. As they walked through the festival, a group of teenagers noticed Aaron's shoes, their eyes widening in disbelief. One shouted, admiration clear in their voice. Aaron felt a swell of pride build in his chest. He called back, feeling the warmth of validation wash over him. In that instant, he realized he had chosen not just to wear the shoes, but to wear his identity boldly, embracing the power that came with it. Jessica could see the shift in him. He was stepping into his own skin. They stopped at a booth where a local artist was painting shoes, brightly colored canvases laid out invitingly. The artist asked, truly fascinated. Aaron replied, the excitement bubbling within him. As he posed with Jessica, the artist clicked away, capturing a moment of joy that sparked new beginnings. "You're not just wearing those shoes, you're creating a story," Jessica noted as Aaron beamed in front of the camera. "Yeah, it's like they have their own personality," he said, glancing down as if seeing them anew. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden hue over the park, Aaron felt alive in a way he hadn't imagined. They wandered with new friends, laughing and leaving behind the shadows of doubt. Eventually, as they meandered back toward the cafe, Jessica turned to Aaron, her heart full. "You've completely transformed today. Thank you," he said sincerely. "I didn't think I could face the world like this. Sometimes we just need a little help to find our own strength," Jessica replied, recognizing how their roles had shifted, creating a bond neither had anticipated. As they reached the cafe, Aaron stopped suddenly, a serious expression crossing his face. "I truly want to apologize too," he said, taking her hand. "I should have spoken up when I felt hurt." "You did nothing wrong," Jessica reassured him, "but thank you for understanding." In that moment, a friendship blossomed, a connection forged not just from laughter but from vulnerability and acceptance. A friendship that would thrive through the ups and downs, built on a foundation of kindness and honesty. As they walked away from the cafe, hand in hand, they knew they would carry this experience with them. A testament to the power of finding strength in each other, the beauty of self-acceptance, and the reminder that every moment can be a chance to grow. From orange shoes to heartfelt apologies and everything in between, they discovered that sometimes the simplest moments can carve a path to profound change. And they had each other to share in the laughter, the lessons, and the joy of simply being themselves. Jessica stepped into the cafe, excitement bubbling inside her. It was a Saturday morning and the air was filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Her friends greeted her from their corner table, animatedly discussing the latest trends. As she made her way through the bustling crowd, her gaze landed on him, Aaron. He sat alone at a small table, wearing the most bizarre shoes she had ever seen. Bright orange, adorned with fluffy pom-poms, they seemed to beg for attention. Unable to contain herself, Jessica burst out laughing. She shouted, pointing while her friends joined in the laughter. Aaron's head snapped up, confusion and hurt flitting across his face. In that moment, the joy in her laughter turned sharp, cutting through the cafe's cheerful atmosphere like a jagged knife. What had started as innocent fun quickly morphed into something darker. He felt the familiar heat of embarrassment creeping up his neck, and all the confidence that had coaxed him to wear those shoes evaporated in an instant. He had worn them as a way to express himself, partly influenced by his sister, who always encouraged him to stand out. "Be bold, stand tall," she'd said, but the laughter ricocheted around him, amplifying his doubts. In a room full of people, he suddenly felt invisible. Jessica's giggles waned when she caught a glimpse of his expression, a mix of sadness and bewilderment. The reality of her actions weighed heavily in her chest. She thought, a wave of guilt washing over her. Trying to shake off the unease, Aaron glanced back at his phone, scrolling aimlessly as if it could offer him an escape. He focused on nothing and everything all at once. Each word of laughter still echoed in his mind. In a cafe full of chatter, he felt isolated, trapped in a bubble of ridicule. As Jessica turned to her friends, she couldn't help but feel the knot tightening in her stomach. She caught snippets of their conversations celebrating her reaction, but it felt misplaced now. She wondered. The cafe door swung open, jolting her from her thoughts as a familiar figure entered. It was Aaron's uncle, wearing an equally bright orange jacket. The older man approached Aaron with ease, a big smile lighting up his face. "Hey, buddy," he exclaimed, completely unaware of the tension that had just unfolded. Aaron forced a smile, but inside, his heart sank deeper. This was supposed to be my fun day, he thought, feeling trapped in a web of awkwardness. His uncle said, keeping the mood light. As they joked, Aaron's discomfort lingered, nestled in the silence he felt in his heart. Jessica looked on, her guilt morphing into a sense of urgency. She wanted to apologize, but the stakes felt too high, she thought. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket, shaking her from her reverie. It was a message from a mutual friend who had witnessed the whole scene. "Did you see that guy's shoes?" The laughter now felt like daggers. The response came quickly. A rush of regret washed over her. How could she face him after what she had done? Gathering her courage, she stood up. "I can't just leave it like this," she said to herself. With every step toward Aaron, her heart hammered in her chest. The air hung thick with unspoken words as she reached his table, her palms sweaty with anticipation. "Hey, Aaron," she said, her voice shaking slightly. His eyes met hers, and she saw the mix of surprise and defensiveness. He asked, a hint of hurt threading through his words. Jessica stammered, feeling the weight of her laughter crash over her. "I wanted to say I'm sorry for laughing earlier. I didn't mean to hurt you." Aaron's expression shifted, eyebrows raising in disbelief. He looked down at his shoes, the very ones that had become the punchline of a joke. "No, I realize now that it was cruel," she replied, struggling to find the right words. "I never thought about how my laughter could hurt you." For a moment, the tension hung between them like a thick fog. Aaron's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but beneath that, she could see a glimmer of vulnerability. "They're just shoes," he muttered. "They do stand out," Jessica interrupted softly. "Takes courage to wear something bold." His shoulders relaxed slightly, but doubt still clouded his expression. "You thought they were ridiculous. I thought I was being funny, but I see now how hurtful it was," she said, desperation weaving through her voice. "I really want to help you on your choice. Let's go out and walk around together, showing off those shoes." A flicker of hesitation crossed Aaron's face, but then something shifted. She affirmed, "Let's show the world that being yourself is what matters." He hesitated for a heartbeat, then nodded slowly. "Okay." As they stood up, the world seemed to open up before them, waiting with possibility. The cafe, once a suffocating space of anxiety, transformed into a starting point for their adventure. Stepping outside into the bustling streets, Jessica felt an unexpected rush of exhilaration. "Look around," she said, gesturing to the lively atmosphere. Walking side by side, laughter bubbled up between them. The curious glances from pedestrians were no longer hostile, they felt like invitations to connect. The vibrant orange of Aaron's shoes became a beacon, drawing attention, but this time in an empowering way. Aaron's cheeks flushed with pride, a smile breaking free. He called back, realizing the laughter no longer felt like a punchline. It turned into something positive, an acknowledgement of his unique expression. Jessica grinned, feeling the transformation take shape not just in Aaron but within herself too. "See," she said, nudging him with her elbow. "I never thought people would actually like them," Aaron replied, energized by the unexpected validation. Jessica teased, "You're a trendsetter." As they meandered through the streets, the conversations flowed. They talked about everything: music, dreams, even goofy childhood moments. Each laugh drew them closer, transforming the weight of previous moments into something light. "Honestly, I didn't think I could come out here with confidence," Aaron admitted. She beamed at him. "Bravery isn't about the absence of fear, it's about facing it." As they walked, they stumbled upon a local festival filled with colors and energy. Jessica exclaimed, pulling him in. The festival buzzed with laughter and excitement, a perfect backdrop for their impromptu adventure. Aaron felt buoyed by the atmosphere as they moved through the crowd. They wandered from stall to stall, soaking in the creativity, savoring the flavors. Jessica said, pointing to a booth with handcrafted bracelets. Aaron laughed, holding up a bright orange bracelet that matched perfectly. As they continued their exploration, Aaron started to feel as if they were creating a new story, one filled with authentic connections, laughter, and understanding. The earlier embarrassment was fading into a memory, replaced by the thrill of reclaiming his identity. A local artist approached them, intrigued by Aaron's shoes. The artist asked, eyes sparkling with curiosity. Aaron said, feeling the excitement build. As the artist snapped photos, Jessica watched, pride swelling in her chest. This was more than just footwear, it was a reclamation of spirit. Aaron had taken something that had once brought him shame and transformed it into a celebration of his individuality. When the artist finished, they turned to Aaron. "You've got great style, these shoes tell a story." Aaron replied, the admiration from a stranger solidifying the foundation he was building. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Aaron turned to Jessica, gratitude shining in his eyes. "I can't believe how much has changed just today." She smiled back warmly. "You're the one who took the leap, I just gave you a gentle push." As they made their way back toward the cafe, a sense of accomplishment blossomed within them both. Aaron felt lighter than he had in ages, the laughter that echoed around them becoming a soundtrack to this new chapter in his life. "We really made the most of today," he said, looking around at the vibrant streets filled with people. Jessica agreed enthusiastically. "And guess what?" he chuckled, realizing how far they had come. "Maybe I'll start a shoe blog or something." Jessica laughed. "Why not? You've got the style and the personality." As they approached the cafe, Aaron took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of gratitude and excitement. He had learned something important about himself, something he would carry with him long after this day. Jessica had not only brought him out of his shell, but had opened his eyes to the value of self-expression. "Let's take one last picture before we leave," Jessica suggested, pulling out her phone. Aaron agreed, standing tall as they posed together. His shoes sat proudly in front of him, no longer a source of shame but a badge of honor. With smiles as vibrant as his shoes, they captured the moment, two friends united by their willingness to embrace life, laughter, and everything in between. In that photograph, they preserved not just the day, but the transformation, the connection. And as they walked away, the future felt bright, a new adventure waiting just around the corner, filled with boundless possibilities. As the sun set behind them, signaling the end of one adventure but the promise of many more, Jessica and Aaron were reminded, sometimes it takes just one moment, one bold step into vulnerability, to change everything. And in lifting each other up, they realized how powerful it was to create a world where everyone can shine without fear. Jessica burst into laughter, the sound bubbly and carefree, echoing off the walls of the bustling cafe. It was a warm Saturday morning and the place buzzed with people chatting, music playing softly in the background. Her eyes zeroed in on him, Aaron, sitting alone at a table with a vibrant layer of colorful shoes adorned with fuzzy orange pom-poms. She couldn't help it, the sight was downright shocking. She exclaimed, loud enough for everyone around to hear, including Aaron. Instantly, the laughter rippled through the cafe, her friends joining in as if it were a well-rehearsed chorus directed at Aaron. He looked up and instantly his face fell. In a room full of cheerful chatter, the weight of humiliation pressed down on him like a stone. All the colorful joy he had hoped to express through his shoes now felt like a burden that hung heavy around his neck. Aaron had picked those shoes with excitement that morning, convinced that they would inject a bit of creativity into his day, something fun and joyous. But those shoes were not just objects, they were symbols, stitched together by memories and love from his sister, who had encouraged him to be himself. Suddenly, all his intent disappeared under the force of Jessica's laughter. Instead of feeling vibrant and bold, he now felt like he was on display, an unwitting performer in a cruel show. His laughter faded, replaced by an all-too-familiar sting of insecurity. "Maybe I should have worn something else," he muttered to himself, glancing down at the shoes that now seemed to mock him. Across the room, Jessica noticed the shift in the air. As her laughter echoed away, she caught a glimpse of the hurt in Aaron's eyes. A heat of shame washed over her and she felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She asked herself, her laughter suddenly feeling heavy and regretful. The sound of animated voices faded into an uncomfortable silence. Each chuckle from her friends felt more like a jab, sharp and unforgiving. "I didn't mean it like that," she thought. Aaron turned away, looking directly at his phone as if it were a lifeline. He felt the joy around him evaporate, replaced by a suffocating bubble of doubt. The laughter echoed in his mind, an anxious whisper of ridicule that he couldn't shake. Just then the door swung open and an older man entered the cafe, a smile brightening his face as he wore a matching vibrant orange jacket. He called out, approaching his nephew's table with a warm familiarity. Aaron replied weakly, a forced smile stretching across his face as he tried to mask the shame still swirling inside him. "Just grabbing a coffee before my meeting," his uncle said cheerfully. "Those shoes are a bold choice." "Yeah, sure," he replied, trying to keep the conversation light while his heart felt heavy. As his uncle continued to chatter on, Aaron nodded along, but his mind drifted far away, caught somewhere between laughter and pain. Meanwhile, Jessica felt an urgent need to make things right. She didn't want the laughter to define her or Aaron. She pushed her chair back and stood up, making her way through the crowd of patrons still chattering and sipping coffee. "I need to apologize," she thought, her heart racing. With each step toward his table, she practiced her words in her head. she thought. Gathering her courage, she approached Aaron, who was still caught in the conversation with his uncle. "Hey Aaron," she said, her voice trembling slightly. He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. His tone was guarded, the pain still evident. "I wanted to apologize," she began, the weight of her laughter crashing over her like a wave. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Aaron's guarded expression faltered slightly, revealing a hint of confusion as he processed her words. He asked, a vulnerable edge creeping into the question. "No, I see that now," Jessica replied, desperation flooding her voice. "I didn't even think about how my laughter could make you feel." His gaze dropped to the table, shame returning to his face. "Everyone makes fun of me, but you're more than that," Jessica insisted, leaning in closer, her sincerity cutting through the air. "Those shoes are a part of you and they take guts to wear." A moment of silence unfolded between them, thick with unsaid words and emotions. Aaron's eyes searched hers, flickering with uncertainty. "I absolutely do," Jessica affirmed, her heart pounding as she took a step closer. "What if we own this moment together? Let's walk around and show everyone those shoes. If someone laughs, I'll laugh too." For a moment, Aaron hesitated, still wrestling with his insecurities, but he saw something in Jessica's eyes, a blend of determination and empathy that stirred something deep within him. He asked, almost incredulously, "Of course, every step you take in those shoes is a step toward being unapologetically you," she said, her voice brimming with hope. He took a deep breath, feeling the chains of doubt begin to loosen. "Okay," he finally said, offering a tentative smile. As they stood up, the world outside the cafe felt freshly vibrant. Jessica felt a rush of adrenaline as they stepped outside, the sun illuminating their path. In that moment, it wasn't just about the shoes, it was about reclaiming the joy that laughter was meant to bring. Walking side by side, they braved the bustling city streets filled with onlookers. Their conversation flowed like a gentle wave, each word allowing the tension to disperse a little more. Jessica glanced at Aaron, his posture shifting as they walked. The looks from strangers no longer felt like barbs, they felt like glances of curiosity. She asked, a bright smile on her face. "I think so," he replied slowly, a tentative spark of confidence emerging. As they wandered through the lively streets, they encountered a group of college students enjoying their weekend. One girl pointed to Aaron's shoes, and instead of laughter, her face broke into a grin. "I love those shoes," Jessica beamed, her excitement palpable. "See," Aaron said, feeling a surprising warmth rising within him. The laughter that once stung now felt liberating. With every interaction, every compliment, the weight of his embarrassment began to lift. They caught the curious gaze of passing strangers, and suddenly Aaron felt like he was standing on a stage, not for ridicule, but for celebration. "Maybe I can do this after all," he said, glancing at Jessica. "It feels good to embrace this side of me." They entered to find booths filled with local crafts, music, and laughter swirling around them. It was the perfect backdrop for Aaron's newfound confidence. He asked, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. She replied playfully. Together, they began to explore, the atmosphere buzzing with excitement. Aaron felt light on his feet as they mingled amid the crowd. The earlier laughter that had once tried to box him and now spread freedom throughout his chest. It occurred to him that self-expression didn't come from the shoes alone, but from the willingness to own his identity, loud and proud. Suddenly, a local artist spotted them and waved them over excitedly. "Hey, those shoes are incredible." Aaron almost couldn't believe it, he said, feeling the anticipation build inside him. As he posed next to Jessica, their laughter rang out like music. Each click of the camera seemed to seal their moment into something unforgettable. When the artist finished, they thanked him with genuine warmth, and Aaron looked at Jessica, off-filling his expression. He asked, his face radiant. "No, but I'm so glad we took this leap," she said, a smile that felt like sunlight breaking through the clouds illuminating her face. As the sun began to drift lower in the sky, painting the world in shades of gold, they realized how far they had come since that moment in the cafe. Each step they took together felt like breaking free from the chains of insecurity. The world no longer felt overwhelming, it felt inviting. But just then Aaron's phone buzzed loudly, breaking the joyful atmosphere like a sudden thunderclap. He pulled it out, glancing at the screen. His expression changed, shock creeping into his features. Jessica asked, alarm creeping into her tone. "It's a message from..." He hesitated, looking from his phone to Jessica, bewilderment clouding his gaze. Jessica inquired, her heart racing. "The one my friends posted." In that moment, Jessica felt time freeze around her, a tense silence stretched between them. The air hummed with uncertainty as Aaron's fingers hovered above the screen. "She's upset." Jessica's stomach dropped. The laughter they'd shared suddenly felt distant, like a shadow chasing them. "Aaron, wait, it wasn't like that," but before she could finish, he held up his hand, the hurt now palpable in his eyes. She shouted, desperation filling her voice. It was a mistake, but Aaron stepped back, uncertainty swirling in his eyes. The world around them felt like it was spinning out of control, laughter fading into an unsettling quiet. Just like that, they stood on the precipice of something monumental. Would he trust her again? Would he let laughter slip back into their story, or would it be buried in a moment of regret? The sun dipped beneath the horizon, shadows creeping in like whispers, and Jessica could only hope that the bond they had fostered today would survive the storm of misunderstandings waiting ahead.